Hello, hello, and welcome to PD and Your PJs. I'm Julie from Seesaw. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight, and I'm just honored you would take time out of your busy week to join us to talk more about how we seesaw in third through fifth grades. I'm here tonight with Shelly Fryer, and I'm going to turn it over to her in just a few minutes, but I want to give you a couple of extra pieces of information before we do that. I was thinking as I was getting ready to talk to you tonight that something you might be interested in is learning more about the first steps to take with Seesaw. If you've never created an account or created a class and you're in need of that kind of information, I just wanted to make sure you had access to that. So I put that video in Shelly's slide presentation right here. And of course, those are coming to you over email in just a few hours. So you'll be getting these slides in your email shortly. But if you need to later, you can go back and watch this training. It's about a half-hour training called Brand New to Seesaw for grades 3 through 5. I figured those were the grades you were teaching since you were here with us in the 3rd through 5th grade session. So take a look at that if you need to. And you can also see the link on that slide for how you can find out about more of our upcoming PD sessions. So I'm just thrilled to be here with Shelly. She has lots of great things to share with you. She's a 3rd grade teacher, and she's going to give you some real specifics about how she uses Seesaw in her classroom. How's it going tonight, Shelly?
It is going great, Julie. Thank you so much. I got myself unmuted and everything. So,
Awesome. Okay, so I just clicked the button to show your screen. So, okay, yeah, we can see it. You're good to go. And I'm going to mute myself so that you can take it away.
all right. All right, so thank you, Julie, and I'm so glad everybody is here today. And how we seesaw in 3rd grade. I am a 3rd grade teacher in Oklahoma City. You can reach these slides. Definitely, you'll be emailed those. Seesaw will make sure of that. But if you want to share that with anybody else, there's the bit.ly down there at Shelly 12 September. And also, please connect with me on Twitter at @sfryer because that's where I do most of my professional development. However, I'm really kind of getting into the Facebook groups, which are a lot of fun for me right now. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started. There's that Brand New to Seesaw. Oh, there I am. All right, so I am S. Fryer on Twitter. I had a student ask me today, Mrs. Fryer, how many years have you been teaching? And I had to think about it for a minute. And I think I counted 21. So it seems like it's gone by really fast. I love being a PBS digital innovator. If you haven't seen their new website, they've been through a redesign. So I would check that out. It's cool. And also, I've spent a lot of time with code.org because coding is my passion. And I do love to do after school enrichment clubs with that. And of course, Seesaw Ambassador, which is my I think it's the best way that teachers have to share their learning with their students and their parents. And here we are. This is my class this year. We're an awesome bunch of 3rd grade students. We're eager to learn. We're passionate. And my job as their teacher is to help them love learning. And I really think Seesaw can work hand in hand with us to help our students love learning. We don't have to think up and be so super creative, but we're already doing amazing things in our classroom. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight is designing activities around the things that we're already doing in our classroom, the things that bring our students joy, the things that are fun for us to teach, and then just adding in that element so students can show us what they know. One of my favorite Seesaw stories for this summer was I dove in deep to activities. I think I've been doing Seesaw since they first got started. And I hadn't ever really played around with the activities. I know it's been around a year, but this year this summer really focused on building my activity library. And so I was really excited to get back to school to my teachers on my staff. And we did a professional development with all of our teachers and invited some of the other teachers across campus to come. And we had a good time. And I think I just blew their mind with the activities tab because it is a challenge to think about what you want to do and make, learning relevant in our classrooms. And there were a lot of steps. So our teachers had been using Seesaw for the past year. We're a Seesaw for school and having a lot of fun with it. The parents love it. They love seeing their pictures and their students' voices. But activities, that blew their mind that you could search for all of these activities by subject matter, science and math and language arts. And so we did that. And that was a lot of fun. And now we've got teachers all over our campus who are really into that activities library. So see, these are some of the projects that I'd like to go ahead and look at today. I tried to pick projects that I think could fit into all of the different grade levels, 3 through 5, as well as a variety of different subject matters. I am a language arts teacher, so a lot of my examples go along with that, but I think you can see how these apps and these activities could work in your classroom. So we're going to do some word clouds with ABCA, some info pics, information pictures, some texting stories, which is always a favorite, image collage, paper slide videos, and what I think is the most often is ebooks with Book Creator. So I want to say this, and I really am a firm believer in this, is that I know that, with this tendency of going digital, we're all trying to save the planet by saving paper. But really, doing these technology activities is way more than just saving paper. It's way more than just taking activities, worksheets, and making them digital. I think the activities library is really showing us that we can take and do some amazing activities, and it can go way beyond. I've been busy creating some worksheets. This was probably not my best, but it is a spelling activity, and you're moving the words around. It's interactive, which I really love. It is simple to do. Well, okay, so it's kind of simple because you have to get past that whole PDF thing and make sure that you're saving it as a picture. But just remember that Seesaw is so much more than just going digital. This is where I get my inspiration. This is showing with media. So we do all of these wonderful activities. I used to be in a one-to-one classroom. Now we have shared iPads, but I really love using media for students to show what they know. And that is a challenge. And that's really how I found Seesaw, was having a place to put all this wonderful media that we were creating on our iPads and having a place, a journal where we could, a portfolio where we could add that, and then we could invite parents to participate and to see that. And so that's really my passion. This is a great activity. This is a word cloud. I think everybody has done a word cloud before. And this happens to be one that my students made right before our testing last year. And we were talking about and brainstorming. I wanted them to be successful and to feel comfortable during that part. So we were talking about, and the kids were adding in, brainstorming, things that would help them be successful. And of course, the more times it's entered in, the bigger the word becomes. I think it's interesting that students know that they wanted quiet. And of course, they needed their bathroom breaks. And I thought it was really funny that they wanted a special chair. But this can really give you a picture window into the minds of your students in a really fun way to gather information from them. So this happens to be one that I just built. This is an activity I'm going to do with my students just this next week. It's a word cloud. We started, our first novel was 100 Dresses by Eleanor Estes. And so there are 3 main characters. And so the students next week, after reading the book, are going to have to pick one of the 3 main characters, either Peggy or Maddie or Wanda, and then do some character traits on them. And then they're going to list those character traits and make a word cloud out of it. So a word cloud is another great way of building classroom community. We did character traits again at the end of the year, where each student had an opportunity to think of a positive character trait about their classmates. And then we gave all of those character traits to them, and they got to create their own word clouds. This is what my students said about me. Again, it's a great way to love on each other and build that classroom community, but also a great way to just gather information from your classroom. So this is the app, Word Cloud by ABCA. You can also do it on your Chromebooks. It's also a web page. And so if you will just Google Word Clouds by ABCA, it'll take you to that. So you can certainly do it on a Chromebook. I happen to build ours for iPads, but you can easily make that. And when you create something you save it to your camera roll. So you save it as a picture, and then you add it from your folder roll. And that's how you get it into Seesaw. Here's the activity that I built for this. And I'm trying to keep it really simple. I know that when you start making activities, it really helps you think about the steps that you'll need. A lot of these are steps that we have trained as a part of our procedures in getting into iPads. Watch that beginning show if you want to know how, just to get your kids familiar with their procedures. What I love about this when it's added to the library is that you can take this word cloud and then you can add your own voice and your own instructions and your own, maybe you want to change that and do it with a character from your novel, or maybe you want to do it from a character in social studies. So there's a variety of reasons that word clouds can be done. Information pictures, InfoPex. So this was a picture that was drawn by one of my younger students in 2nd grade when I was teaching at the other school. And they happened to see where the wild things are. We had read the book, they saw the play, and so they were creating a picture from where the wild things are. And then we added that information. So this happens to be a quote. You know, inside all of us, hope, fear, adventure, inside all of us is a wild thing. And so we had done a lot of talking about that. But an information picture is it sounds very simple, and you can do this right through Seesaw by taking a picture and then adding a label on top. But really, it takes a lot of higher order thinking to kind of come up with the right statement or the right quote or the right thing to add to that picture. This is one that I used in a workshop that we did for teachers, a making media workshop in the summer. And it was right around 4th of July. And so the task that we had there was come up with a quote about freedom and then create an info pic. So this one was actually done in an app called Adobe Spark, but I have easily done this right in the Seesaw app. But what I love about this is that it took time. I was expecting most people to come up with, you know, fireworks but when you really had to stop and think about attaching a picture that had the same meaning that your quote did or the information that you were trying to gather. I think that would be really powerful in a social studies classroom. I think it could be really powerful if you're talking about science and especially maybe environmental issues, where you really talk, you know, how can you convey something that you're passionate about in one small bit of information. So InfoPix can be very powerful. This is the activity that I built for my Seesaw library. I did this in Seesaw itself. I had saved this picture on my iPad, and then I added it in and then put that label on top. I love this quote, and it took me a long time. I picked the quote first, and then it took me a long time to find just the right picture. Sometimes you put up walls, not to keep people out, but to see who cares enough to break them down. And that was from Socrates. So I think coming up with an information picture is a really awesome way to kind of use the Seesaw tools, but also really convey a message. Now I just brainstormed. I was just thinking, hey, I should do something on bullying because that was kind of the main theme of our 100 dresses. And so just as I'm talking here, I'm thinking we could really make something neat out of that. All right, this is one of my students' favorite activities, Texting Story. What a fun app. Texting Story is an app on our iPads. I believe, and for you Chromebook users, I don't have a good place for you to go. I know that they are out there that you can create the texting stories. But I think this one, if I press that link, that will go to that one, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you this because the students just think this is the coolest thing. So in this activity, students were having to use their spelling words and in a conversation. So they get really silly with it, but it still has to convey the definition of the word. So this is Finn and Kyra's texting story from last year. Can you see it? All right. So that was pretty cool. I think you can see why students would have a lot of fun with that. They get pretty silly, but you know, for third graders especially, they're not really, they don't have phones yet. I think they know what texting is, and they've probably texted family members and maybe friends, but they think that's really grown up. And it's a really practical way to do that. The activity that I created for this, oh, that's the texting story app. So if you can get that. And it just had some really cool updates that really made it a lot easier. And it saves to your photo roll as a video. And then from your photo roll is how you add it into your Seesaw. So in this activity, again, going back to our novel that we were doing, I had a conversation going. I wanted the students to create a conversation between the two characters. And so when you watch that, they're having a conversation, which was a little harder. My partner teacher has already done this activity. And of course, the students are allowing, emojis. And so there were some conversations they had to happen. And then there were some really harsh words in some of her conversations. So it was a real teachable moment for digital literacy, which I think is really important, especially as we're using digital items to talk about, well, would you really talk that way to a friend? I mean, I know you're going to type that, but really, would you say that? And so with this activity, with these texting stories, it also opens up a whole opportunity to have conversation about responsible digital usage as far as texting. They're not really quite there yet. I don't know, maybe fifth graders are, but I think as teachers, we need to be very cognizant of that and have those conversations with our students. But texting story is a great way that you could have conversations between characters. You could have stories. You can use vocabulary words. It's really flexible. Image collage. So I'm a big fan of images and how images convey what's going on in our classroom. This was in a classroom that I taught at a few years ago, and we loved integrating science into our classroom. And so in order to either document experiments or document activities that we were doing, I used images. The students, that was the school that I taught at, that were one-to-one, and so students knew how to take pictures to document what they were doing. But also I liked using it to document what was going on in the classroom so that parents could see. Because as you know, when a student adds something to their portfolio, they only see their student. So I really like to do image collages and send those out to parents so parents can kind of see what some of the other students are doing as well. Also, it's a great way to integrate students' artwork. These were some pictures that they had done in art class of self-portraits, and it's a great way to, again, collect a lot of items and get that out to parents in one opportunity. And we really haven't talked about parent engagement, but I love the conversations that parents have. I was reading in the Facebook comments today, has anybody ever had parents complain about getting too many notifications? And everybody's like, no, our parents love it. The more, the better. And you can tell by some of these conversations that parents just adore getting examples of their student work. And I really think pictures are a great way to be able to do that. This is image collage, pick collage or pick kids. We actually get a lot of pictures here for a lot of various offers. This is a paid app. So I know that technology directors can get that on volume purchase plans, but we actually carry this on every iPad. I personally think that if you're going to pay for an app, this is one that I would pay for. It's easy to use, and you can use it in a variety of ways. This is the activity that I created, wanting students to go ahead and collect 3 to 5 pictures and then save them to their photo roll. And then you can add that as a collage so they can document their group work. They can add that into Seesaw. Also, so you can click on that activity and save these. I think when you save these items to your library, you can change that. All right. Paper slide video. I feel like I'm rushing through this, but I want to make sure that we get to all of these items and then have some question times too. Paper slide videos are awesome. And it allows students to create or draw pictures. I want to show you just a little bit of this one. I won't watch the whole thing. But this example was a science lesson that we were doing on bats. We were studying bats. It kind of has a long introduction because they're giving you some bat information, but the meat of it is that they were drawing pictures of their vocabulary words. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and play this. I'm going to see. That's how you would save it to your library, because I actually clicked on the library. No, that's not right. Yeah, there we go. So here is this example.
Bats, friend or foe, by Mrs. Fryer's class. There are over 1,300 species of bats. Bats eat about 3,000 insects a night. Bats can live all over the world, except very cold places. Bats can live in caves, dead trees, or even under bridges. Bats roost in dark places. Bats are the only mammals that can fly. Our class has studied bats for the last 3 weeks. These are some of the things we have learned. This is a picture of a bat and a scientist searching for a bat. She is using a bat detector. When bats roost, they hang on a pole. Their bat house can be on a building or a tree. The bats are mammals and
So I love that because it's simple. You can have students, you get that student voice. They're just sliding that picture through. Each student can participate. It's meant to be a no edit video. So we practice putting them in order and then practice talking and pulling those out. But there's no editing to that. And you can film that on an iPad. You could film it on a phone as a video, and that can easily be added right into their from the photo roll as well. So, and then our last project, this was a huge accumulating activity last year. Third grade major project was animal research books. And so if you're not familiar with Book Creator, it is an amazing activity. There is an app, but I have to say that we did it on Chromebooks this year, and it was so easy. You can sign up for a free account and I think get up to 40 books. Or that you can get more later. Every student made interactive books in our class. These are ebooks that we saved. We did it actually in Google Classroom. So we made these books and added it to our Google Classroom. And then we were able to add that link into Seesaw from there. This is an example of one of my students' books. And, you know, it's a multimedia book. That has not only her voice, but I think I can click that here. Can I turn the page? Yeah, there it goes. So she collected the pictures. They broke it down into chapters. She was able to record her voice.
Elephants are very peaceful creatures. I've learned about an elephant's physical characteristics.
So we used archive.com, which added attribution in it automatically. So there was another digital citizenship lesson that we were able to do. But it was a challenge, you know, for the students to do all of the research. They typed the paper into their Google Classroom. They created the books. They had to copy and paste their text into the book. You could type it directly in. But what I love at the end, they were even able to add video into their books. I know that Book Creator has gone through some really great updates this summer. So oh, isn't that awesome? I thought that's great. Familiarize yourself with Book Creator, because I mean, that's an awesome source of media for that. Also, it gives students an opportunity to comment on each other's, to give that amazing feedback back. All right, so here we are. This is my classroom from last year. Building classroom community together. I feel like by the end of the year, I knew my students better. I knew their parents. It was a great opportunity to hear student voices. So these are some of the activities we have. Julie, do we have any questions that we need to go back to?
Shelly, this was amazing. So many great ideas, and even I am inspired. And I think that that book creator book that Adeline made about elephants was just beautiful. So those turned out amazing, really well done, and that was a great idea to share with our listeners. I do have a few questions, and what's coming in a lot, Shelly, are people asking about, okay, if this is on iPads, how would I do it on Chromebooks? And I actually have a few things I can throw out there. Regarding the texting story, which was super cool, I think if you go to classtools.net, they have something called an SMS generator that would work in a similar way, and you could do that from a Chromebook or computer. I'm going to type that in the chat box here of this webinar so that you don't have to try to write it down as I'm saying it. Maybe you can just copy and paste it. So I'm going to do that real quick, but I'm going to give Shelly another question while I'm doing that. Alicia is asking if anybody has experience using Seesaw with MacBooks, so it wouldn't necessarily be a Chromebook. Do you have anything to say about that, Shelly? Or if not, I can definitely weigh in on that too.
I do Seesaw on my MacBook all the time. I'm working on a MacBook now. So I am assuming that pretty much anything you could do on a Chromebook, you could do on the MacBook. So I don't think that would be a problem at all. I mean, we go through the Chrome web browser when we're using that. So I had a Chromebook for years. This is actually my only second year to use a MacBook, but I kind of use it as a Chromebook anyway. So I think using MacBooks would be no problem at all.
I think so too. And what I would throw out there for you is just to remember Seesaw's free and it works on any device or platform. So some of the apps that I would have used with my students in the 12th grade classroom or that Shelly was using, we were using iPads and Shelly uses iPads. But as long as we can help you with a similar suggestion, if you're not iOS, Seesaw is going to work for you, whether you're on Kindles or iOS or computers, so that's going to work for you regardless of your platform. So I typed in that one website, classtools.net, in the chat box. I have a question from Denise coming in. Shelly, Denise is asking, are all of the activities that you showed us tonight available in the activity library?
Yes, absolutely. I made sure of that before we started. So you can search them by activity. I think you can search them by my name. So yes, they should all be in the activities tab
and that's
in the library.
That's super helpful that Shelly did that too, so that as you're listening tonight, later you can go in the library and find her activities. So Shelly was correct.
I think you can actually click on my slides too. I think I made those activities so that you could click on the slide and actually add it straight from the slides.
Right. And then like Shelly was telling you during the webinar, you can actually edit her activities too. So give it that little heart, like it, turn that heart pink when you're in the library, and then you'll be able to edit your own version of that activity. So if you wanted to change some of her pictures or terminology, you could, but she has that foundation of that activity there waiting for you. So yep, those are all in the library. You can filter by grade or subject, or you can keyword search. So if you type in Shelly's name, Shelly Fryer, you'll come up with all of her activities. I'm going to look in the question box again. Denise is passing on her compliments and saying thank you for all of your work, Shelly.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate that.
Hannah affirms what you said too, that her families have been really happy with the notifications as well. And I want to remind everybody, when a family member creates their own account, they have choices in their account settings for frequency and type of notification. So if you ever do have someone complaining, you can remind them that when they click their profile icon, just like we do as teachers, we go to our settings with the wrench. But if you're a family member and you click your profile icon, you can change some things in your account settings. For example, I have children who use Seesaw, and I have chosen to get their notifications in email and not in an SMS because I don't want the text in the middle of my workday. So like I have that choice as a family member, how I want to get notified. So just empower your parents and family members. They can set those preferences however they want to be notified and how frequently they want to be notified. Peggy is passing on her thanks too, said it was a jam-packed half hour.
Oh, thank you, Peggy, as always. I appreciate your support.
Kristen and Peggy are both kind of asking about, like, if you're on a Chromebook or on a computer and you don't have Pick Collage because you're not on an iPad, what would you use? I would say Google Drawing, maybe. Like that's that's part of the Google suite of tools that you could add a
Yes.
picture, type words on top of the picture.
Yeah,
And is what else would you add
well, I
there?
was going to say, Wes and I did that this summer with teachers because we were really trying to go device agnostic. I had some activities that, like image collage on a Chromebook. There are a little more steps that we did, and we did do it through Google Draw. That activity was more for teachers than it was for actual students, or maybe even high school students. But it is possible. I do have an activity for that, but I don't think it's in the library because it was really meant for more adults. But yes, it is definitely possible. Also, I want to highlight all of the Seesaw. If you're not in the Facebook groups, either the Seesaw teachers or your grade specific group, that is a wealth of information. So all of the questions that we're getting, a lot of those you can find answers in those Facebook groups. So it's a really awesome source to go to those Facebook groups. So please, I mean, they're private groups, but you ask and you'll get in right away.
Yes, thank you, Shelly. That was a great plug for those Facebook groups. And if you could hear my keyboard clicking, it's just because I'm answering some questions in the question box. You have lots of thanks and, gratitude and compliments coming in. So people have been really impressed with all of your suggestions. Alicia is asking another hardware question. She's saying, okay, if my kids are in second grade and they have the MacBooks, how are they going to take pictures though? And, really, Alicia, that's a hardware question. I mean, Seesaw, of course, is going to open that camera for you, but you're maybe going to be limited on mobility because they're computers and they're not tablets or phones. So I think that's worth you thinking about as far as your digital workflow and the norms you want to establish with your students. And maybe you can talk to your IT about that. I mean, your computers will have cameras on them. It's just a matter of, do you want students picking up computers and walking around and taking pictures with them?
I'm going to interrupt. I mean, I don't
Yes.
want to interrupt. Excuse me, Julie.
No,
But you can also make a Google Photos gallery. So that might be a neat thing for parents to do, is to make a Google Photos. Like if you know you're going to have a big project on animals, to have parents collect pictures, and put it in a Google Photos gallery, and that might be helpful. Also, I add a lot of things from my phone. So if it's really taking pictures of things around the classroom or out at recess, sometimes I use my phone and I add that in, and then the students can actually copy and edit on top of that. So that's a little more teacher specific, but I think having a Google photo gallery would also be a great thing to have.
That's actually a really good suggestion, Shelly. And I think you're right that you just kind of have to think about the device and the setup that you have, and then try to think about what's the best workaround. And making a collection of photos available to your students is probably really helpful. My high school students used photosforclass.com.
Yes.
I typed that in the chat box. Archive, it's going to attribute the photos, so you can kind of make that point again, reinforce that digital citizenship. Like you're not just cutting and pasting pictures, from the internet, you're actually attributing them appropriately. So that's really nice too.
Digital citizenship. We need to teach that from the very beginning. There's also a great web site for photos. It's called Unsplash.
Yes, agreed. I'll type that in the chat box too, just so that people can see these typed out. You're so right. And I actually use that a lot too, along with Photos for Class. I think, those are just good things for you to have in your wheelhouse if you're working with photographs and having students smash them into other apps, just to kind of know what's going to be appropriate for your students. So our question box is kind of slow right now. So I'm going to say a few more things. And if you have something to ask Shelly, go ahead and type it in. In these last couple of seconds, I'm going to remind you that if you're listening to us live right now on September 12th, this is when we're talking live. We actually do have a live Seesaw chat on Twitter tomorrow on Thursday, September 13th. If you're watching this video later on YouTube, don't worry about that. But I just thought I should go ahead and remind our live listeners tonight that we are going to be on Twitter tomorrow talking about the activity library. So if you want to talk a little bit more about, what we can do with those activities and how you can customize them and just anything else about activities, we're going to be chatting about that on Twitter tomorrow. What Shelly has on the screen now is a lot of the information about our various communities. We're pretty active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And then Shelly and I both have our handles right down there at the bottom, so you can connect with us that way. I know we're both really happy to answer questions. So Megan has typed in one-to-one iPads, and I think she's reminding me probably of something else she asked earlier that maybe now I have forgotten. Megan, give me more context if I'm forgetting. Are we talking about if you don't have one-to-one and you share, if you have any ideas for shared iPads? That's probably what we're talking about. My colleague Angela is actually doing a webinar in another 45 minutes about shared device setups. So if you want to go back to web.seesaw.me/PDs and kind of look for that registration information and get in her webinar, she's going to talk all about how you can use Seesaw even if you have limited devices. So I think, there's going to be lots of tips. I worked in a one-to-one environment, and it sounds like Shelly does too, but I think Angela, who taught kindergarten for many years, is always has lots of great tips to share, because there were times she only had like 5 devices in a class of 25 students. So she had lots of ideas of how her littles could, really like successfully and effectively use Seesaw even with limited devices. So hopefully maybe, and if you can't get in that webinar live tonight, we'll be tweeting the link out to that YouTube video, and it'll be up on YouTube, by tomorrow. So definitely look for that. Megan, thank you for reminding me what you were asking. Thanks, Dory. Thanks for coming. Dory's thanking you, Shelly, in the question box. Sarah's saying thanks too. Thanks again, Alicia. We were happy to have you here, and get in those Facebook groups, you guys, because I think you will find that those are very supportive communities. And so you can always ask a question there, and there will be somebody who can answer it for you. I think everybody was really happy tonight, Shelly. You gave them lots of good inspiration. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for attending tonight, and don't forget to connect with us on Twitter if you have more questions. Bye-bye, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.
Have a great evening.